Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my most humble and prayerful salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagawan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. On this auspicious occasion of Navratri, today we celebrate Ashtami. I wish and pray for Bhagawan's blessings on the whole mankind and everyone watching here. Dear brothers and sisters, it's my pleasure again to bring another episode of his story through the eyes of his boys. And let us begin with our prayer. And as always, I request you all to please join. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Sai Ram, and welcome to this episode of his story through the eyes of his boys. Today it's my pleasure to introduce you and bring to you another brother who had a privilege of being acquainted to Bhagawan from his very birth, as his father was inducted into the system by Bhagawan in early 50s. So let us all look for that adventurous story of a boy with a humble beginning and enjoying the Lord's proximity. I have the pleasure of welcoming Brother Siva Sai Raman Kumar Challa. Sai Ram, brother.
Saram Abhi, thank you so much for having me here. It's always such a pleasure to be part of this satsang, to reminisce the wonderful days that we spent at Bhagwan's lotus feet. It's
Certainly.
can't even explain to you what it is.
Certainly. Let me start off by giving a little introduction about you so that people get a flavor of that. Brother Shiv Sai Raman Kumar Challa, that is his full name. We lovingly call him Shiv Sai or Kumar Challa. He has come to Bhagawan as a student in 1980 when there was Ishwarama school in Prashantinilayam. Then from there, he went on to do his graduation, post-graduation. He did his PhD, so he got his doctoral. And then he became a lecturer in the college. And later on, Bhagawan also gave him the privilege of teaching there for some time. And then brother went on to do his postdoctoral with Bhagawan's blessing. And presently, Brother Shiv Sai is in Boston, United States. He's a founder and president of 3 biotech ventures. Actually, he's on a break from academia, which had a recent assignment as managing director at Harvard University. So I'm sure we'll like to hear a little bit about those biotech ventures, but let's get the story of him to know how he has reached these heights and from where he came. So Brother Challa, you're welcome. And let us start off by hearing your story. How did the whole thing started? Where are you originally from? Tell us something about how Bhagawan hooked your family in.
Thank you again, Abhi, and thank you everyone for being here. I consider this as an inspiration for me. I'm getting all the inspiration that I need from all of you here. So the one memory that really etched in, forever, I guess it will never go away, is, one of those morning bhajan time when students are busy in schools and colleges. So the bhajan group space used to be really empty, literally empty. Swami would come, and I had the privilege of singing bhajans. One bhajan particular I remember it's a pretty old bhajan, but so powerful, etched in my memory, so to say. And this being holy Navaratri, it's a Devi bhajan. So I'm
So
just remembering.
let us start this program with your bhajan. That will be excellent.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm seeing Swami sitting right in front of me, and then having this wonderful opportunity to sing this bhajan.
Please.
Trilokapalini Jagadishwari Sadananda Rupini Saishwari Trilokapalini Jagadishwari Karunya Kadambari Karunya Kadambari Patishwari Amba Shiva Shankari Patishwari Amba Shiva Shankari Trilokapalini Jagadishwari.
Beautiful. You have really taken me immediately into the 80s.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it's so hard when we think about those days. It's really hard to know where exactly we should begin his story. But I think what would be really fascinating to me, as well as I'm pretty sure for all our brothers and sisters, is to understand how magically Swami has been guiding us, right from our very birth. Sometimes we are aware of it, sometimes we are not. So let me begin the story from there. So, with my very earliest memory of what Swami meant, my parents were living in a tiny, tiny village. Probably it's very difficult to understand the concept of a village now. This place is called Siddha Reddipalam. That's in Nellore district. My father was an elementary school teacher. So the very early memory of mine is being in a small, literally hut. It's a mud hut with palm leaves covering as a roof. There were Swami's pictures, all the four walls of the hut. One of the memories I still have is, I woke up one day, probably I was 4 or 5 years old, woke up and then I saw a snake. It was pretty big, right behind one of Swami's pictures, and I screamed, calling for my mom. I am scared, there is a snake here. Then my mom comes and looks at the snake. She's so calm, so composed. And she says, "Why are you even afraid? Swami is right there. You don't have to be afraid at all." So that's the kind of memories I was very fortunate, to start my childhood with. Again, this is his story. He made me realize that he's going to be part of me from that early days onwards. That's when my journey began. Really, I mean, the whole basis for this journey is what my mom started telling me those days when I was 4 or 5 years old. And one simple thing that she said, they would call me home lovingly as Sai. And she would say, "Sai, you do Suprabhatam every day to Swami, and Swami will do Aksharabhyasam for you." Those days, both my parents are so devoted to Swami, their whole life would revolve around Swami, right?
Let me pause you. I want you to start the journey then from your father's. How did your father come into it? So then we'll get a
Wonderful.
more relative to about this, how you got into Bhagwan. So that
Right,
will be a
right.
nice perspective.
I totally, yeah. I'll just
Yes.
finish this part so that'll be a nice addition to,
Okay.
the journey started. So what my mom told me is you do Suprabhatam every day. Swami will do Akshabhyas. And as a child, you don't understand the concept of God. All that you do is you believe in your parents and, you know in your heart that it's going to come out true. See, that's the faith, right? And it did happen. So I will come back to how all these actions have led to wherever I am today. But for the whole basis is my own parents' journey, which, if I think of it today, is so inexplicable. And that's only possible because Swami pulls everyone and Swami pulled them as well. So my father was 17 years old, and my mother was probably around, 11, 12 years when they first saw Swami in Venkatagiri. Swami used to visit Venkatagiri very regularly those days in 1949, 1950s. Um, the moment my father saw Swami, he knew he's God. I mean, that's it. There is no explanation, there is no logic. Uh, Physically, Swami was not famous those days, right? But the moment you see, you have the connection. So that's how my parents' journey started. My father would come to Puttaparthi. My uncle, my mom's elder brother, he retired as a professor, T.V. Ramana. He served Swami in Parthi, took care of him for 3 months in Mandir, staying with him in Mandir. So there is a long association, both from my mother's side as well as from my father's side.
What is the name of your uncle?
Professor T.V. Ramana.
TV Ramana.
Yeah.
So he
Um,
did kind of a door duty of Bhagwan or something like that?
he lived with Swami in Mandir, in the old Prashanti Mandir for 3 months, and then he left, uh, to proceed with his studies and whatever ambitions he had. But Swami would come to Nellore, and my parents and my grandmother from my mom's side. My father's side, my grandfather was not into Swami at all, but he's a very spiritual person. So that's how the journey began. To say his story, where it began for them as well as for me is
Your father came to Swami in 1950s, you're saying. So it will be like Swami was somewhere in 20s.
yes, yeah, it's about 24, 25.
Wow.
He was very, very, very young,
Very,
very energetic. Yeah.
Puttaparthi. Do you have any stories? Did he tell you anything about that era? How did it look like? How was the interaction like?
Yeah. So one particular,
Chitravati and all that. Yeah.
yeah. So one particular incident that he always, talks about is Swami came along with few other devotees to Chitravati river, and that used to be pretty common those days. My father was only visiting occasionally, but on that particular occasion, my father was very upset with Swami that Swami has not written any letters to him. So he was crying literally. So he comes to Mandir, and Swami doesn't talk to him at all. Swami
Father was upset because Swami did not write letter to him.
letters to him. Yeah, because Swami used to write a number of letters to one of his friends in Nellore,
Okay.
and he never wrote a letter to my father. So my father wanted to confront Swami on that visit.
So sweet. Yeah.
He's crying, and so Swami, as always, ignores him. And then my father was thinking, okay, Swami has ignored me. Swami comes out of the mandir. He used to have a jeep those days. Swami would say, hey, come, get into the jeep, right? And then Swami would drive to Chitravati river. So my father was hiding on the side of that small old mandir because he didn't want Swami to see him, or he didn't want to get disappointed that Swami is not calling him to go with him to Chitravati River.
Okay.
And crying, the jeep starts. So he's totally heartbroken, thinking that, okay, Swami forgotten, and he's gone. So, when you start the engine, right, the sound will come, and then accelerator sound, right? And then there is a brake. And it happens 3, 4 times. And my father is wondering, how come the vehicle is still not moving? He's only hearing the sound from the side. And suddenly somebody comes running, Ganapati, Ganapati, where are you? My father's name is Ganapati Shastri. Swami used to call him Ganapati. Ganapati, Swami is looking for Ganapati. Where is Ganapati? So he comes, and then Swami asks him to get into the jeep, takes him to the Chitravati River, and Swami always makes everyone sit on the sand. On that day, Swami took my father aside, took him a little further, sat with him on the sand, and started talking to him philosophy, and explained to him why he was not writing letters to him. He said, if somebody is going in the right path, I don't need to worry. I don't need to remind them about what their true purpose in life is. That's the only reason. You are on the right path. Proceed. I am always there for you. If you have any troubles anytime, just think of me. I will be there. And it's so, to me, fascinating is those days, Swami used to have pawn. He used to have a silver pawn box. He took out one pawn.
The beetle leaf pan, huh?
Yeah, beetle. He took it out and put it in my father's mouth and asked him to eat it. Of course, my father was very hesitant. But anyway, when he was feeding, it's literally, my father felt that divine mother feeding him and telling him, he don't even have to worry about anything in life, no matter what, right? So to me, to all of us, my siblings, my parents, everyone, I think that assurance is what the whole scaffolding of our story and his story is built on. I am there with you. No, don't worry about anything. And that's the assurance he kept his promise. I don't know whether we kept our promise, but he definitely kept our promise, and we see that every second of our life.
His part of the story is always perfect. Okay, so when was your first visit to Bhagwan?
Yes, yeah. This is again.
As a baby?
I keep using the word fascinating. I have no adjective to describe all these things, so I keep using some of these words in a repetitive fashion. But you can't even imagine. There's no English language to describe, these wonderful interactions. So, as I said, coming back to the story of like a little kid, I believed my mom and then did the Suprabhatam. I don't think I understood anything those days. And then it was time for me to start my formal school. And it is custom in our family that you go to, Tirupati, or you go to one of, the saints that your family is familiar with, and make that saint do this formal entry into, your education. It's called Akshara Bhyasam.
Akshara Bhyasam.
So for my parents, of course, there's nobody else. There's no other God. Swami is God. Our house is Swami, nothing else, right? So my mom was praying and praying, and the only bottleneck was we didn't have money. My parents didn't have money. My father's salary at that time was something like 49 rupees. Okay. Imagine an elementary school teacher in a tiny, tiny village of 10 huts with no infrastructure whatsoever, right? So
you're talking about late 60s, right?
That's in late 60s. Yeah. 70s actually, early 70s, I would say. So they were trying to see how best they can accumulate and make that journey happen. And also to give you a perspective of how hard that journey was, today probably it's much easier for me to fly from Boston to Puttaparthi. But those days it used to take even longer. So just to give you an idea, so Siddhareddypalam was probably about 10 kilometers to a spot where there would be a bus to come to the headquarters of the Nellore district, which is Nellore. So we would have to walk those 10 kilometers. And then there was a small canal, and that needs to be crossed. And there is no way to cross that canal. So you have to depend on someone who would come with these wooden blocks clubbed together. You have to stand on it. There will be two people. One guy would be pulling from this side, and then the canal. When the people come from the other side, then there is a guy come this side. He will pull, right? So you cross that, and then take a bus. And there used to be only probably two buses for the whole day to go from that particular spot to Nellore. And that 10 kilometers would again take 3 to 4 hours of bus journey. So, and then once you reach Nellore, the only way you would have to, come to Patti is by taking train. So I was looking forward to the train journey. That was my motivation. I didn't care about Swami. I didn't care about Puttaparthi. I didn't care about Aksharabhyasam. When my parents said that we are going to Puttaparthi, oh my God, I'm going to see a train. I'm going to get into the train. I remember as a child, right? So I was super excited. And then we took the train in Nellore after this almost 12 to 15 hours journey of 20 kilometers from Siddharadipalam to Nellore. Then we took a train from Nellore to Renigunta. That used to be the junction. And from Renigunta, we came to Bukkapatnam. And, from Bukkapatnam, we had to...
How many days? How many days is it?
I remember it was probably 24 plus hours, right?
Yeah. I think everybody had that challenge. And then from Dharmavaram, you take that bullock cart and bus.
Bukkapatnam, and from Bukkapatnam, you come to the other side of the Chitravati River.
Chitravati, and then come. Oh, God.
So we made that journey. We came to the Prashanthi Nilayam. So my very first impressions of Prashanthi Nilayam are, surreal. That's all I can say, because you can't even imagine if you look at the Prashanthi Nilayam today and those days.
Totally different. Totally different.
I was sitting in. It's an old mandir, and there is sand. You're pretty close to the portico, current portico, and nothing else. There were beautiful coconut trees around. The canteen was right there. Everything is walkable. Devotees would sleep underneath the trees, so close to the mandir. So my first darshan of Swami was, I was sitting there, were probably 10, 15 people, 7, 8 on the women's side and maybe equal amount on the gents side. And then Swami comes walking. I'm sitting there with slate. My father was there right next to me. Swami comes, of course, I don't understand anything. My father is saying, oh, give the plate, slate to Swami. And Swami is so happy, smiling, full of energy. It's unbelievable amount of energy with which he was operating those days. He came, he had all the time in the world. He looked at me, he looked at my father, took time, he took my hand and held my hand and then wrote Om 3 times, not just once. And then he blessed me on my head and asked me to take the namaskar. He was all the time, he was there. That is my first impression of Swami, right?
So at the age of 4 and 5.
Yeah, I think I was 6 by then, 6 or 7 probably. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other impressions of Prashanthi Nilayam were as equal to my impression of Swami was the 2 morsels of sambar rice and curds rice. For some reason, I remember in the canteen, they would serve a ball of sambar rice and a ball of curds rice. That's all they would serve, right? But I remember the taste of it. It was fantastic. So those are impressions of my Prashanthi Nilayam. And I got the desire fulfilled thanks to the protocol I followed based on my mom's faith. I wouldn't say it was my faith, right? So that's how my journey started with Swami's blessings into initiating.
I believe you were also initiated into Upanayam with Bhagawan, right? Swami did your thread ceremony.
Yes. So again, here is the foundational building block for my whole life, right? So you um, pray to him, have faith. You have certain desires. While Swami is not here to fulfill all our desires, he's here to give us what we need rather than what we ask for. But knowing what we know, we ask, we pray to him, and if he thinks that those are the best decisions for us, he would make those happen. So coming back to the Upanayana, yeah, by then I came to a 7th or 8th grade. It was summertime. That's the right age. I happened to be in the Brahmin family. So that's the right age when my parents knew that I had to get the Upanayanam done, a thread ceremony. That's again a milestone event in a child's life.
Second birth.
Yeah, Swami is God. Nothing, nobody else, right? So my mom has been praying. How do you do this? We have no connections to Swami. We are not powerful. We are very simple people. We don't have money to go to Patti 10 times or go to Whitefield 10 times and wait for Swami to give us that opportunity. But my mom never left her faith. So it so happened that summer, it was, I think, the year 77, if I remember correctly. That year is also important for our family because my eldest sister was invited to be part of the summer course. Those days, Swami would select few students, outsiders from different states, invite them to be part of the summer program. So my sister got selected. She happened to be there. We get a call from one of our friends who were there saying that, hey, Swami is performing Upanayanam to about 200 kids in Whitefield.
In Whitefield, yes.
In Whitefield, yeah. So now imagine by then, of course, we moved to Nellore for my studies. We were in Nellore and our friends, through word of mouth, we had no access to phones. We had no access to any other communication. So as soon as we come to know about it and prayer started even more earnestly. So we were again wondering, how do you make this happen? How do you get your name into that list? We have no clue. But my mom said, hey, let's go. Let's go. This event is going to take place on this day. We will go. I am sure Swami is not going to forsake us. I don't know where she gets that faith. It's unimaginable. Again, remember, she was not old, right, like me today. But from that young age, all that they knew was, hey, you have a problem, go to Swami. And Swami would solve it. So to cut the whole story short, three of us, myself, my mom, and my father, ended up in Whitefield. We had no clue. That was first out-of-state journey for my parents too. And out-of-state journey those days used to be like going out of the country. No clue about the language. So we land up there, and the next day morning, we tried, to find out how they can get my name into the list. And then they said the list was closed a week back. Swami approved all those names. There's no way you can get in. But my mom, with her unshakable faith, she said, that's okay, let's get ready. So she got me ready with all the traditional dress, with the plate, flowers, and everything. I said, let's go and stand there. And, we will see. If Swami wishes it, it can happen. And my father was very short-tempered, and he would say, you are, why are you wasting your time on all these things? He was nagging, right? But anyway, so next day morning, we go to the auditorium. Actually, that auditorium is current library in Whitefield.
Okay, the college library.
Yeah, it's the current library. In fact, I recently visited Whitefield, and I was very surprised to see the library and recollect very clearly one of the windows through which Swami saw us. So we were standing outside. It was 7 or 7:30 in the morning. Yeah, Swami used to come very early those days. And they started reading the names. So probably around 150, 200. I don't know the exact number, but the hall was full by the time, the names were finished.
Announced. Okay.
Names were announced. So the doors were getting closed. And then Swami, he's very happy. He's going around and looking at everyone. When the doors were about to get closed, Swami just looked this way. And then it just so happened that that window through which Swami looked at, it was me just waiting outside. And there were probably one or two others were there as well, right? And then the doors opened again. Swami said, whoever is there outside, just come on in. That's how I think Swami's grace and my mom's
So I
faith
think it's a divine invitation. You come in. That's it.
Exactly, yeah. So we came, and again, if you look at the times of those days, Swami was so loving, had all the time in the world. He spent time with each and every family. So I was sitting in between my parents. He would come, do every ritual that is done in a traditional Brahmin family through a priest, right? Swami did everything. He would bend a number of times. Imagine doing that for 150 people, right? I can't do it. I don't think I would have done it even at that age. Do that for every family. And then, lo and behold, this is even more unimaginable if I think of it. So the custom is to chant Gayatri in the ear.
Yes.
You're not supposed to say it loud at all, right?
Correct.
The custom.
Yes.
So when the ceremony is, at the end of the ceremony, the priest would come and chant Gayatri 3 times in your ears. And so I did that to each and every one of us who were there.
Wow.
Came and chanted the Gayatri mantra. Okay, Om Bhurbhuvasva Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. It still rings in my ears. He chants 3 times, not just once, right? And then he waited for me to give him the garland. He took the garland. Of course, it took it out as well. Imagine doing that exercise
For everybody.
families, right? He would take harati from everyone, right? So imagine all the rituals that needed to be done to be a perfect Upanayinam. He was the priest. He was the divine priest for all of us. And
Later on, he made it common, right? It was a crowd was big, and he announced it. He used to chant Gayatri over the mic later on.
right later on,
Yeah.
when I was in Patti, he conducted a couple of times, and he would chant it in the mic. Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, "I'm making it open. Let everybody chant freely." So it was, but it is just very beautiful to imagine that he going to every child around 150 plus, and then doing all the ceremonies independent. That is amazing. Amazing.
I would say it's so breathtaking because when Swami is around, the energy, right? It permeates. It's not just from him. Energy around people, right? That's what I would say is real divinity is. It just lifts you up to a stratosphere, right? So to say.
So let us know now, how did you decide to become a student then? How did your journey reach to college?
Yeah, so it shouldn't be surprising by now, and everything is Swami in our house. My parents, nothing else other than direction that to be part of Swami's guidance, to be part of Swami's educational institution. My eldest sister went to the summer course. Of course, my parents couldn't afford her to send her to the Anantapur. But my second sister had a chance to go into Anantapur campus. And then my third sister as well. But my interest came, again, remember, my mom was telling me, yeah, you have to go to Swami's school. Oh, it would be a dream for you to go to Swami's school. I don't know if it's possible because we can't afford to send you. Where can you afford to get 200 rupees a month to send you to the hostel? My sister would get a part-time job working in a library, and that's how she was able to manage to get be part of Anantapur campus. But where can we send you? I still remember in my 8th grade, some of the Swami's devotees would pull up money. They would buy me books because we couldn't afford my books, school books. My father would pay 10 rupees as a fee for the school. It's a public school, I mean, those were the circumstances. But I remember my childhood was absolutely wonderful. I was so happy, never felt even a single day that I lacked anything. So if I look back and think through, I think it is that total faith that my parents had in Swami, number one. And number two is they were busy, absolutely busy with Swami's activities. Even though we didn't have anything to offer to guests keep Swami's devotees would pour into our house anytime. In fact, our sibling, my sisters and me, we used to get so perturbed sometimes why our parents are not worrying too much about us. They are busy talking about Swami, serving them tea, coffee, whoever comes, right? So we would be, and they're busy. So one day in a week, Sunday would be a holiday for my father. But 4 o'clock, they would get up and go for, Suprabhatam and Nagar Sankirtan. 9 o'clock in the morning, my mom is busy doing service. And then the Balavikas. So it's 24/7, Swami and Swami. Probably that's another reason why my childhood is beautiful. Probably it's more joyful than if I had billions of dollars. I think, if I think of it, I was more happy than I am happy today, I guess. So after my Upanayanam, obviously I got to see Swami's students. It was Whitefield. It was mesmerizing for me to see them so beautifully, in discipline. And I always used to think, why is it that Swami wanted us to wear white dress, right? But I think if I think back to those days, my first impressions of Swami's students, it's magical. It's magical. You think that, you're not just a normal human being pursuing studies for studies' sake or pursuing studies to be successful in your career, but there is something else, something inexplicable. That is the impression I got when I saw Swami's students, and that motivated me. And that was the starting point for my desire. And of course, obviously, that's the path my parents choose for us as well. And we didn't know anything else other than that, right?
So Upnayam was in which year? Upnayam was 1970s somewhere?
77.
77.
Yeah, I
And
remember the
you,
first
you
time. Yeah,
came to apply for the school in 1980.
1980. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I was a pretty bad student. I thought I could intervene and help reinforce my mom's faith, I think, my parents' faith, right? So I come back, 8th grade, I come back to Nellore and continue my high school. And my parents were worried because I would come home from school, throw my books, and go play cricket on the road till 9 o'clock in the night. Never touch the books, That's how 8th grade went, 9th grade went, and 10th grade, my parents really couldn't take that anymore. And they were pretty harsh. And they said, you're going to be like this, you're going to fail. You're going to fail and you can't go into Swami school. Apparently, that didn't motivate me to study or focus. So I continued the way I was. But I think one thing that I still remember is my mom telling me, you do Sandhya Vandanam every day morning. Now that Swami did Upanayanam for you, you do Sandhya Vandanam. Swami will give you a seat. You can join. I did that. I did that, whether I believed or I rebelled many times. I still remember that. And I pretended that I was doing Sandhya Vandanam. But, all said and done, I think I did that most of, my 8th grade, 9th, and 10th grade. By 10th grade, of course, I was studying. I was not a brilliant student. I was pretty normal. And my parents couldn't afford to send me to a tuition, right? So they left everything to Swami. What else can they do? So it was time for 10th grade. 10th grade used to be a public exam those days, and results are announced in a newspaper. So we knew the results are coming next day. My father woke up at 12 o'clock. He cycled to, to the nearest railway station to look at the newspaper first before it is distributed into the city. My mom was awake, of course. I was a nervous wreck. I woke up too, but I didn't want to. I was curling up myself in the bed. I didn't want to think about it. I was scared. I was very scared. That was the first time I was really scared for my life, scared for everything. The other thing my father would threaten me is there used to be an engineering workshop right next to our grandmother's house, in whose house we were staying in Nellore. And my father would threaten me, if you fail 10th grade, I'm going to put you as a tea boy in that engineering workshop. So you would have to serve tea to everybody. So that scared me. I didn't want it to be like that, right? So that was a clear contrast. The first time I realized I didn't want to be a tea boy in my life. So then I started praying to Swami. So my father goes to the railway station. He picks up one newspaper and going through all the names. He starts with the third class list of all ticket numbers with third grade, thinking that at least if my name is there, okay, at least I've passed. He can't
What an
find
expectation.
my number. Yeah, that's all. They were expecting me to fail. Everyone, including my my friends and my parents' friends. But anyway, so he looked at the third grade. My number was not there, so his heart sank. And then he looked at the side. He thought, okay, maybe Swami is there. He may do some miracle. So he looked at the second grade, and then he can't find my number. Then he knew, done. His only son, he's destroyed his life. I don't know what's going to happen. He might have thought. And then he goes to the first class and he finds my number, the hall ticket number. And he can't believe. So he goes and buys 5 more newspapers, just to make sure that it was not a printing mistake, right? And then he finds my hall ticket number in all the newspapers in the first class. So I pass in first class and I just get 70% marks. And 70 is, barely anything, if you really want to get into groups like maths, physics, chemistry, right? But I was joyful. My parents were joyful too. At least there is a pathway to go into Swami's college. My parents said, okay, fine. This is what we're going to do. We are going to send you. As soon as the results came, they shipped me off rather than put me in a bus and send me by myself to Puttaparthi. Where was I staying? There were one of our friends. They were very kind. They said, you can stay in the veranda. If you remember Puttaparthi rooms.
We used to always sleep outside the rooms. Yeah.
Yeah. So that veranda, they gave me that
veranda. They used to allocate rooms. Yeah, allocate
exactly.
place.
Yeah. And they said they were very kind enough to feed me and kind enough for me to use their restroom. But all that didn't matter. I was all very happy. And the goal was very clear to me. Somehow I have to get into Swami's college. But how do you do that? Again, we have no connections. Only connection we have is for Swami. The goal is get up at 4 in the morning, be first in the line so that you get first row, give letter to Swami and say, Swami, I want to join your college. That is the only pathway we knew and we could afford, right? So I did that both morning and evening. And those were days, you would get at least once in a day, you would end up being in the first line. And then you would end up giving letter to Swami. And I'm sure, I can't even remember. I'm pretty sure Swami, there was an interaction. There is a, realization. Swami knows me, right? Then someone helps me to apply, fill in the application form. So I fill in the application form, I'm waiting. And then I see my name in the interview list. And I couldn't believe that. The reason why I couldn't believe that is 70% is really the very, very basic. For end of the line where I could get admission, right? Cutoff used to be like 80, 90% marks, and mine was pretty low. But lo and behold, I get the call for interview, and interview goes well, and I'm admitted into Swami's college. But I see my name is the last name, but that too, not in maths, physics, chemistry the group that I wanted, but in commerce.
So it started off with commerce.
Yeah, so I started off with commerce. So it was a Sathya Sai Junior College at that time. So the 11th grade, 12th grade, our batch was the last batch, part of the Sathya Sai Junior College. So I joined Swami's college. At that time, it's such an inspiration. It's like conquering the whole world. You realize that, oh my God, I got into Swami's college, right? Nothing else mattered.
So your classes were in Ishwarama High School, right?
Classes were in Ishwaram High School. We were living in Mandir in a small shed. Hostel was not ready when we started. So,
Yeah, the other boys were staying in the East Prashanti hostel. So
so
you were not there.
yeah, our senior 12th graders and then, the degree boys, they were staying in the old hostel that was on the East
That
Prashanti.
East Prashanti, we used to call it Old Hostel, yes.
So when we came in, there was no space for us in the East Prashanti old hostel. So they created a shed next to the South Indian canteen. We were probably about 80 people or so, I can't remember. And it's a small shed. We were given, it's like 2 by 5 or 6 feet space. So we had a small trunk, a small, pillow that's covered with bed sheet, one for the floor, one for the cover, and nothing else, right?
I think from 1970 onwards, that was a space for the boys. Even in Whitefield, that space was that much. Then the old hostel had similar, and you people also had the similar spacing. You just keep your suitcase and open the mat to sleep.
Right, right. And here is remember, it's a shed. Sheds are literally go downs, basically, right? But nothing bothered us. That it used to be clean, but not clean like clean in a new hostel, right? And there was hot water, it's cold water, and we would have to get. There was no choice. 4 o'clock, you have to get up. The other beautiful thing was we could sleep in mandir, close to Swami's interview room. We could sleep wherever we want on the sand. It was again, so beautiful even to describe, right? So we would all actually fight to get our bed right next to the Swami's interview room. So again, coming back to the shed where we were staying. So you have one round of spaces for us to live around the wall, and then even the middle space is occupied by students. So we were literally packed, and we had teachers living with us, and they were part of they were as uncomfortable or as uncomfortable as we were. That was such an inspiration for all of us, right? So that's how the Swami's training for us, for me, started with 11th grade, living in right next to the canteen in a small shed, sleeping,
Beautiful.
spending 4 or 5 hours. If I think of it, we would go for darshan at 6:37 in the morning. Bhajans used to be 10:30, 11. So literally, it was education under divine feet. Because 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in
One
the
would be very informal in those days. It was very informal. Do you have any memory of interaction with Bhagwan, with others you've seen? He was very quite he must be quite informal that time, right?
he was very, very informal. For us, it was so informal. Just to give you an example, after the bhajans, we could actually knock on the interview room, and the boys who were caretaker, we could give a letter to them and say, "Please give this letter to Swami," and they would give it. So it was so informal, and Swami would read each and every letter. And again, to give you a beautiful example of how informal Swami was, and also to tell you how he never behaved like a god. He behaved like someone who is part of us, right? Someone who is our well-wisher, someone who is a scaffolding, to our life that is getting built. So I remember I was so innocent in my 11th grade, one of those days. I had severe toothache. And again, remember, we were 16 years old, and it's like kids, right? Fighting for chocolates, fighting for parents' attention, right? Probably that was my intention. We were looking for every opportunity to get attention from Swami. So I had that day the toothache, and Swami comes, opens the interview room, comes. There were hardly students covering just the veranda space. Swami would walk practically every day. We would get namaskar, pada namaskar. So Swami was walking. As soon as he came near me, I just got up, right, and said, "Swami, I have toothache." I mean, if I think of it, it is so silly to me. Imagine he's master of the universe. He could give me a planet if I wanted, right? But what I'm doing is I'm getting up and asking him, Swami, I have toothache. And look at him, right? He was managing university. He was managing Central Trust. He was managing the whole Prashantilim Comp. He's managing Whitefield. Every decision needed to be approved by him, and he will not make a decision unless he understands and thoroughly examines every aspect. He is a micromanager in a sense, right? And for that person to find time to have kindness in heart to respond to a 16-year-old kid and to say, oh my God, Hauna, yo, papam, it must be so painful. This is exactly how he reacted, right? And then he stops, he creates vibhuti. Because it's all from my side, hey, I'm gaining attention, right? I can be a form person in front of my friends. Probably those were the thoughts that were going in my mind as a 16-year-old, right? And of course, yeah, privileged to, get something from Swami. So Swami creates vibhuti, and then he puts it here and gives it some in my hand. And then it's all going to be okay. Don't worry. And he never, he could have blasted me and said, why are you coming to me? There is a dentist in the hospital, just go, right? Or he could have called warden, which he has done it on some other occasions for some other situations. Called warden and said, you buddhi why are they wasting their time? They are in front of Swami. They should be, focusing on, spiritual exercises. He could have done that too, right? No, he didn't do that. He was full of kindness and love, and then he walks, right? I mean, that's again were the times when
Beautiful. Beautiful.
guidance, right? Directly.
How did you become a singer? Because I heard that you sang so beautifully the bhajan, but I have a very faint memory of you. But I believe you were part of the bhajan group. So how did that happen?
Yeah. Again, I think when I think through, I have a better explanation as to, what really motivated me and what typically motivates all of us being in his divine presence. It just happens. It comes out. You want to do something, it comes out. There's no explanation. Like the way, yeah, I wasn't prepared to tell Swami that I had toothache. I just did it, right? So I felt one day that I have to sing in front of Swami. It was again in 11th grade. There were not too many singers around. So I felt, hey, I was a Balavika student, by the way, from childhood. And I was considered as a star in Balavika student because there's nobody else who would sing in Nellore. And I happened to have a good voice, at least that's what I was told. But it got into my head that, the impression I have about myself was, hey, I have a beautiful voice. I'm a great singer, Balavika singer. So I should be singing in front of Swami. Why am I not singing, right? So I prayed to Swami. I wrote a nice letter saying that, Swami, I used to sing, when I was a Balavika student. Why did I sing in Mandir? Who I expected, right? And it's just one of those things that you do it spontaneously. And 99% of the time, Swami doesn't respond, right? We have seen that too, right? But he sends word through Nityananda Menon was the warden. Yeah. So he sends word through Nityananda Menon and says, hey, this Siva Sai Kumar, he's an amazing singer. He used to sing so beautifully in Bhajan. To give you a perspective, I had no idea what Shruti was. Okay, when you're a Balavika student, what Shruti you're talking about? I had no idea what Talam was. right? I had no idea about any sophisticated song. All that we would know was, Nara,
Sing a bhajan.
Narayana. That's all we would sing, right? As a Balavika student. And then when Nityanand Menon comes and says, that time it hit me, oh my God, what have I done to myself? Why did I even write to Swami that I wanted to sing in Mandir? I'm in trouble. Because I see how meticulously Swami's bhajans boys prepare for bhajans. Swami insisted on the highest quality. Swami would get very upset if they compromised on the quality of the presentation, whether it's a bhajans or whether it's a programs. A minute mistake, Swami would get upset, right? And suddenly it dawned on me, I have no capacity. I'm not a singer, right? I used to be a Balavika student and sing and look at my friends around to see how great I am. Nothing beyond that, right? And then now I'm scared. But the thing is, you're so full of ego, right? And also 16-year, 17-year-old, you think that you can conquer Everest, right? And then Swami asked me to sing. I'm going to sing tomorrow, right? I didn't even think that I need to know what song to sing, and I need to prepare to know if I have to pick up the song in the right Shruti, and so on, right? But as soon as Nityanand Menon tells me, I go to Hariharan. Hariharan was an amazing mentor for all of us at those days, and Hariharan was and also very kind, very practical. They have been, singing in front of Swami, and he told me, this is what I suggest. Don't sing tomorrow. He saw me singing. He realized I'm no. But it's Swami's command. That's how they look at it, right? I'm childish in my behavior, in my anticipation, but he was more responsible. He knows how Swami would react. He knows how it needs to be prepared. He tried to tell me very nicely for an hour. He sat with me and said, I will train you. I will train you for a month, then you sing.
That is typical of TV Hariharan.
And of course, yeah, who would like to go, against Swami? He was also a student. He was also afraid of Swami. He didn't want tomorrow to be blamed that he didn't let me sing. So he said, okay, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. He put Shruti, and I couldn't take it up in the right Shruti. And I picked up a song that starts low and then goes pretty high. So he said, okay, fine. He tried to do his best, put the Shruti and make me practice, and he left it to Swami. So next day evening, we go there for bhajans, and my turn was, the second or third. They thought, I should just finish up before Swami even comes to inside the mandir. So I was also okay with that idea, thinking that, I just want to finish it up. Swami gave me the chance, and I want to sing. That's it. And I want to sing before Swami comes, because then if I mess up, Swami won't know, right? But lo and behold, Swami comes. Second song itself, he was there inside the mandir, and it was my turn. Hariharan puts the Shruti. I am nervous wreck. I'm sweating. There was no air condition those days in mandir, and we would bring fans to, fan ourselves. It was so hot. I was perspiring. On top of it, I'm seeing Swami first time that close as a bhajan singer. And that's it. My voice wouldn't open up. I was not hearing any Shruti. I couldn't hear anything. I was lost. And somebody poked and said, hey, it's your turn. You have to sing. And they were looking at Swami and poking. Then I just blurted out the song. I took at the highest pitch, and I couldn't carry it further, not surprisingly. But the saving grace was Swami was looking at me. He was laughing and laughing and laughing. And there was no mic. So, a couple of others joined. They were very kind to join and finish the song that day. But Swami was supremely happy. He had, I think, great time as always. And then the bhajan was over. Then everyone was looking. I didn't want to look at anybody's face. I was putting my head down and walking away. And I realized nobody would know that I sang, and then, I flopped, because there were no mics and nobody would talk about who sang what except for the bhajan boys. I didn't want to look at the faculty in charge for the bhajan. I just walked out. I knew that's the end of my singing career in Mandir. But next day, I'm waiting. Evening, typically is when we get, guidance from Swami. And nothing comes. I was waiting for Nityanand Menon to come and call me and say, stop. Swami said you cannot sing anymore. But nothing happens. He doesn't come. And nobody, Swami didn't say anything. So I become a formal bhajan boy. Then I learned my lesson to a certain extent. And after that, I used to practice and sing, not as frequently, But again, my focus was more into academics, bhajan singing was not of my highest priority at that time. But I really enjoyed every day sitting in front of Swami.
I'm sure it has own purpose and reason in your life too,
Yeah,
That's why
yeah. And
Bhagawan
in fact,
initiated that.
little did I realize what was the purpose for for 10 more years. That's a very interesting story about.
We'll come to that. We'll come to that. I wanted to remind you that you were part of the first the 5-year integrated course that Swami had introduced, and it was a very unique program that Bhagwan brought in for our students. We could join and straight away finish your masters. So, would you like to tell us something about that?
Yeah. So we were finishing up our 12th grade, and by then there was a talk about, having Swami's institution of his own, Sathya Sai University, all names were being heard. Probably even in our 11th grade itself, the foundation was being laid, I think, for those plans. But by the time we finished our 12th grade, we had the pathway, the integrated program. That was the first time Swami created an amazing 5-year integrated program that would start with first year bachelor and then end with a master's degree. And it was planned in such a way that in addition to having the highest standards in the subjects of our choice, we were also not just taught, but we were graded in social work, graded in politics, right? Graded in religion. I still have those formal
Mark sheets, yeah.
mark sheets wherein we were graded A grade, B grade, C grade in all these categories. And I still remember, what a educational experience it was, right? While we were very competitive in other subjects, right? Physics, chemistry, maths, and all those. This formative years to understand, get the perspective in terms of what the global religions are. Truly, it's not what we hear in newspapers or news outlets, but truly what is the significance of those religions? How all the religions, when Swami says, all religions are same, right? That's when we realize through those studies. When Swami says why social service is so important, we realized why it was important because it helps you to integrate your learning, a formal education with the personality build up, right? And why learning about politics and economics, even as a science student, really helps us is to have a background to life.
Perspective. It just
right?
widens your perspective, yes.
Yeah. So, how much of thinking might have really gone into designing that course? I can tell the impact of that even today. If I look at, I've been to the best of the top tier universities in the world, but I think the way this integrated program molded our personality, both the physical personality as well as our spiritual being, our mental capacity to withstand the vicissitudes of life that all of us need to go through. I think that's a
Bhagawan had introduced, I think I remember Indian ethos and values or cultures values. That was one full syllabus on that. We used to give exams also on that.
right.
And I think our college, you rightly said, must be unique in the world, if I may put it, at a college level, to be having service activities as a mandatory program to graduate from the college. So
Right.
when everybody has to go and do the mandatory social work or village program or whatever. And then I believe about the moral classes also, where uh, in say 70, early 70s, 60s actually, when he started off the Vrindavan campus, I was told by elders, that he used to conduct moral classes himself. And then later on, guests started coming in. So in Parthi also we used to have moral classes, right? In your
Right.
time, has Swami attended that any
Oh yeah,
time?
yeah. Moral classes were again a part of the whole fabric of learning, because the moral classes would bring top-notch speakers from around the world who have excelled in not only their spheres of careers, but who have really dealt and understood the spiritual path as well. So to listen to them is to be an inspiration. I still remember, as an undergrad student, we would all get together when we are doing service activities like taking out the weeds in front of the campus. We were so motivated. We wanted to renounce everything in this world. We used to read books like St. Francis of Assisi, and we wanted to be part of Swami's mission to motivate generations of students by allowing ourselves to grow spiritually. I mean, these talks would really help us to understand what should be our goals in life, right? So that's again a beautiful moral classes on Thursdays used to be a beautiful part of this whole fabric of integrated program.
I think you were also part of the Veda group, if I may put it, remember. Huh? You're very active, and how did that journey start?
So the whole focus when we were there, starting from 11th grade, for all of us is what are the various avenues to be close to, recognized by Swami, right? To
Yeah.
for him to smile at us, for him to bless us, right? For him to give us what we desire, right? Remember, I mean, we were not renowned. We didn't renounce the world. We are human beings, and we are uh, young minds, right? We are still don't know what we want, right? And we are moldable, right? So we come with all those complex backgrounds, but we know that it's the divinity that can give us what we want. Divinity can massage our ego. Divinity can help us excel. If we are excelling in sports, yeah, we would. If you're excelling in academics, we would, right? So on one side, yes, I also realized that, yeah, while I was a bhajan singer, but I realized that maybe I'm not putting in the kind of effort that I needed to excel in bhajan singing. Then I said, okay, let me also pursue another avenue. And we had wonderful, inspiring Veda teachers like Dr. Shiv Shankar Sai. I still remember he was such an inspiration. And then realizing that, yeah, I come from basically a Brahmin family. But again, just to reiterate this point, uh, the beautiful aspect of living in hostel, while I say now that I come from a Brahmin family, but what is a characteristic that helps all Swami students is we really didn't care or paid attention to what caste anybody belonged to, what language anybody spoke in hostel, right? I even today I don't know the last name of so many of my friends, my classmates, right? We live like brotherhood of humanity, right? Skin color didn't matter to us. How rich or poor. There were rich people, right, who had no idea how to sleep on a floor. They were poorest of the people. But we never, nothing mattered. I don't think, in fact, my class had two students from Spain. They were my roommates for 1 year, right? So we never thought about any of these differences. I think that's a characteristic that's helping us today when we go out into the world, when we are in meetings with people. Skin color don't matter to us, the language don't matter to us. What matters is what can we do with what we have, what is the goal, focus on the goal, rest of the things don't matter, right? And in top-notch management schools, people are trying to teach that aspect, diversity, how important it is to deal with diversity, right? They get it because unlike Swami's students who had the training from childhood, literally living in a hostel with such a diverse group of people, it's natural for us. I think that's one characteristic. It's transforming Swami students, I would say. Right. So coming to your question, yeah, happened to be Brahmin, though it didn't strike me at that time. My parents are saying, "Hey, you're a Brahmin, so learn Vedam." Swami did Upanayam for you, so learn Vedam. Right. Those were the motivating factors. So yeah, that's how I got into it, and we really enjoyed the Vedam process.
So I think you're more skewed on to the academic side for most of the time, and you were also blessed to get a gold medal from Bhagawan, and that must have been a very memorable occasion for you.
It is. It is. In fact, when I think back, while we had Bhagawan to give us anything in this world, right? He would bless us anything. Like Swami says, why are you going after, the worldly recognitions? When you are with Bhagawan, right, you have everything. But as I said, we were complex human beings. We are evolving ourselves. Swami is allowing us to evolve ourselves. And knowing our family circumstances, right, how hard it was. My father was retiring. I realized there's no other choice but to excel in studies. I think I became a great student the moment I stepped into Swami's college. I can't even believe the difference. Till 10th grade, I was supposed to fail, somehow pass, never studied, right? But the moment I joined Swami's college, that discipline and there is a self-motivation to excel. It's to me it is it's a life changing in terms of my career aspirations. Not that I had an aspiration at that time. I just want to be the topper in the class. I don't know why. I never thought about it when I was in school in Nellore, right? And there was no aspiration except to be in Swami's institution, keep doing, excelling, right? And then be part of Swami's mission. That's all is the motivation, right?
So you're
yeah.
sorry.
So at some point, we finished the undergrad, got into, a choice to be made. How you want to, what discipline do you want to select? I realized some of my friends were more brilliant, and they were having higher grade than me in undergrad, and they picked up the maths, physics programs for master. And I realized if I take chemistry, I don't have much competition, and I could be a faculty in the chemistry department. So I ended up choosing chemistry with that main reason, right? And then I also realized, oh my God, I don't have too much competition in chemistry. If I'm going to work hard, I can get a gold medal from Swami. So with that motivation, I think the last 2 years of master's degree, I hardly sang in Mandir. Probably once or twice I would have sang. But most of the time I was busy studying. I was busy doing a research project, working in the lab. We had amazing teachers like Professor Krishna Swami. So my whole journey started now moving more towards excelling in the academics. And lo and behold, yeah, it was again Swami's plan, right? And it never becomes apparent that it is Swami's plan until it is sometime, right? So we finished the masters, and the results were announced summertime, and then I get the gold medal. And so my friends from maths, physics, biology, right? And all of us were feeling very proud of ourselves, all the gold medalists, right?
Now you must be ready for the PhD then.
Exactly, yeah. So we know for sure, yeah, Swami is going to take us into PhD. Who else he will take? We are the gold medalists. And the summer is coming to an end, and we don't hear anything from Swami. We were all sitting in Darshan. And one day we see suddenly Swami comes from, opens up after finishes Darshan. He calls up 5 students, my classmates. None of them were gold medalists. these five, Swami picks up, takes them, and we were wondering, hey, how come Swami is, we were talking after the darshan, right? How come Swami picked up these five boys? I wonder what's happening. Then we were telling ourselves, maybe, Swami wanted them to distribute some prasadam or something like that, right? But I think in my heart, I knew something is wrong, right? And they come out, these friends of mine were really good friends of us, right? And they wouldn't talk to us. And they were feeling very sad on one side, but they were also happy because Swami took them into the PhD program. Swami said, you go to the PhD program.
So they got selected and you boys were left out.
The gold medalist from chemistry, gold medalist from physics, gold medalist from mathematics, gold medalist from biology were all left out of this. And next day we were all in tears. We had no idea what to do. But we were still hoping, we are gold medalists. Swami will come to know, as by the time it is June sometime, Swami will also come to know that we are the gold medalists. Probably he didn't know that we are the gold medalists. So those were the thoughts that were going in my mind. Nothing happens. So the college starts. PhD boys go to the hostel. And in the mornings, only few of us were left. Right? There were hardly 5 or 6 students left who are not part of the academic program. So in the morning, Swami had to see us. There's no choice for Swami. He would come, the whole veranda is empty. We're all sitting in strategic places so that Swami has to see us and talk to us. We are trying to get up and tell Swami, Swami, please, we want to join in PhD. Right? Swami ignores, right? And then we are desperate. We don't know where to stay. My own circumstances were so bad, I couldn't afford anything, right? But luckily for me, so the June comes, I have no place to stay. My grandmother says, okay, she takes pity on me. She comes and says, I can rent a room in Prashant for a month or two. They wouldn't rent for a longer period those days. So she took care of me for a month or so. By then, Swami started sending word through Chiranjeeva. Chiranjeeva would come and say, what are you boys doing here? Swami said, you should go home. Should go home. Swami got you very nice, valuable education. Now you all hold a master's degree from, and you're all gold medalists. Swami wanted me to tell you this. You're all gold medalists. You should go.
So he's rubbing it. He's rubbing it.
Rubbing it literally, right? But here is striking to me as a human being. We are helpless, right? But in my own thinking, I'm saying, okay, I'm the only son, I have a responsibility. So I'm applying. I'm applying for jobs everywhere, right? But with no heart in it. Just we'll see. If that's what Swami wants me to do, I'll get a job and maybe I'll go, right? But nothing comes. Not even a single interview call. Forget about getting a job. Nothing comes in my way. And by the time it is June, July or so, and I'm devastated. I'm scared for my life. I'm also worried, hey, MSc from Prashant, who cares about Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning degree? You go into the world, people are looking at IITs and top-notch institutions. Why would anybody take somebody from Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning? I mean, those thoughts were all running in my mind, right? And then I'm crying. Every day I'm crying. I mean, imagine, you have beautiful Swami coming for darshan. You get Padmanamskar every day, but he won't look at you. He ignores you and you're crying. And then one day what happens is, that's like almost final straw, because the previous day we get a nth reminder from Chiranjeev Rao that Swami doesn't want to see you guys from tomorrow. You need to leave. By then, my grandmother, in my own personal case, she said, and they were not renewing the room in Mandir. So everything is coming to an end. I was also thinking maybe I should go back to Nellore, right? So I'm sitting in the morning. I'm sitting in Darshan, one of the corners right next to, there's a Ganesh statue. I still remember. There was nobody else in that line. And there was sand. So Swami finished the Darshan. Swami was coming. I'm looking straight, right, towards the women's side, like we all do, right? And as soon as Swami, and then when Swami goes to the men's side, we are looking at Swami on the men's side. I turn, and as soon as Swami starts to the veranda, I didn't want to look at him. I turned back and started closing my eyes and crying and looking at the women's direction. I didn't want to look at him. Swami, of course, he might have realized what's wrong with this guy, right? Tears are rolling, and then he comes. I can see, as soon as he comes next to me, I can see, through my eyes, the beautiful robe and his feet on the sand. And then he goes past me, at least 2 to 3 feet. And I said, fine, that's life. What can be done about it? And I'm crying, uncontrollable. And suddenly I see the robe coming back, walking back. And he taps on my shoulder and say, get up. And he says, Yemira, ఏమైంది ఎందుకు నువ్వు భజన్లో పాడడం లేదు ఎందుకు మానేసావు భజన్లో పాడడం రేపటి నుంచి లేడీస్ ఎవరు పాడడం లేదు ladies are not going to be singing from tomorrow. It's going to be...
You have to translate the whole thing for the people. So you said, what happened to you? Where were you all these days? Why didn't you sing bhajan? And tomorrow, I'm translating, so you translate it.
So that's what, I mean, when I look back...
No, translate it for everybody.
So I will. Yeah, I will. But I just want to say this, when you look back, Swami probably wanted me to excel in singing, continue to sing, more often than what it was. It didn't happen, right? So in Swami's mind, I needed that to be done for my evolution, for my own growth, right? So Swami kept me. He didn't give me the PhD program, right? Now, if I look at the words of Swami, let me translate it in English, right? Look at the word, then you understand the implications, right? Swami said, get up, right? It's so meaningful when you look at it. I'm down in the dumps. He says, get up. He doesn't have to say get up because he could easily speak to me, right? I'm on a higher side and he's on the lower side on the side. No, he says, get up. So by getting up, I already changed my mindset, right? And the second thing he says, what is wrong with you? Why did you stop singing in Mandir? Right? So he told me what is wrong with me, right? I didn't realize there was anything wrong with me. All the time I was thinking at that time was something is wrong with Swami, right? He made me for PhD. And then the third thing he says, you sing. And I'm shocked because, I mean, I used to sing occasionally, but I was not a famous singer or anyone Swami could relate to, right? So Swami is saying from tomorrow, nobody is going to be there. Women are not going to be singing anymore in bhajans. It would be just men. And since morning time, no students are going to be there. It'll be just you and Mohan Rao. Nobody else will be there. So morning bhajans are your responsibility.
I want to just tell people that Mr. Mohan Rao was an ardent devotee of Bhagawan from, I think, 50s, early 50s. And he with Rajareddy Garu, they used to be the original singers of Mandir. And it was a privilege to have Mohan Rao Garu with us during our times. And even though he had stopped leading the bhajans, but his voice was still powerful as far as I remember it. So he's the same Mohan Rao Garu which Kumar brother is telling, that Bhagawan said, tomorrow you and Mohan Rao will take the bhajans every day morning. Please carry on.
Thank you for saying. It's really, we have to admire Dr. Mohan Rao Garu. He's a great singer, such a person with so much of humility. He would gel so well with all the bhajan boys, right? He would sing appropriately. He would take the cues of what Swami, anticipate, what bhajan boys anticipate. It's not easy. Remember, as a human being, to be part of such complex situations that play around Swami's Bhajan group. I mean, just to give you an example, you don't know when Swami is going to come. You don't know what song sometimes Swami wants you to sing. You don't know when Swami is going to stop the bhajan. You don't know if a fast tempo bhajan is required or a slow tempo bhajan is required, right? So, you don't know if Swami wants Mohan Rao to sing or someone else to sing, right? You don't know if it is a morning bhajan or you don't know what song to sing if it is a morning bhajan or an evening bhajan. Dasara celebrations, for example, suddenly it's a sing, right? So you have to be on top
Ready
of
for
your,
everything.
right?
And during their time, the bhajan used to be not only 2 cycles; it used to be like 4 or 5 cycles. Tempo will keep going higher and higher, higher.
Yeah. That was, I think, before our times.
Yeah, our time, before our time. I'm telling you,
Right.
Mr. Mohan Rao
Yeah.
Garu's time. He had
Right.
seen that era.
Exactly.
So let's come back to your story. Yeah.
So anyway, so I was not sure whether I was happy after Swami told me this, but one thing I realized was, okay, hey, there is a glitter of hope, right? I have something to hope for, right? And then I take the namaskar, and I think I was happy to a large extent, I would say. But at the back of my mind, I was worried about my life, my career. Remember, I mean, I wish I had that forethought to see, hey, you are in divine hands. Enjoy the blessings that you are getting, right? I wish I was, I had the mindset. But honestly, no, I didn't have that mindset at that time. I was still about my career. I was worried about what will happen to me, right? But anyway, so I come out and then I tell this to Mohan Rao Garu. Mohan Rao Garu says he's scratching his head. Oh my God, how am I going to manage with this Siva Sai Kumar? He has not sung regularly, but he's such a kind, saintly soul. For him, a word from Swami will move mountains, right? He knows we will manage. So we decide, after darshan, next day morning, we'll practice bhajans. So as soon as darshan was over, about 7:30 or so, we come to the old hostel with the harmonium. And by then, I have not really perfected how to still sing in Shruti, right? And then we realized there was no percussion. There was nobody to play tabla, nobody to play dolak, right? Not even thalam. So we were thinking, how do we manage? And then on top of it, it's the logistics, right? You have to prepare for 10 songs at least. If you're singing for those days, songs were really small, right? Like for example, I remember Mohan Rao Garu's favorite song, Govinda Krishna Vithala Venu Gopala Krishna Vithala. It's beautiful, when I think of it, imagine you don't see anybody, you just see Swami in front of you. The whole Bhajan Boy space, it used to be huge space when students come in from college in the evening. That whole space is empty. It is Mohan Rao Garu one side, right in front of Swami. I am next to him, and there were 2, 3 other boys, right?
Do you want to sing? Do you want to sing a bhajan of that era?
Yeah,
That would be
There
nice.
were so beautiful songs, right?
Sing any
Let
bhajan
me
you like.
put the Shruti, yeah. He Brahma, He Vishnu, Dayamaya, He Maheshwara, Sathya Sai Parameshwara. Imagine you are right in front of Swami and you are saying, Hey Brahma, Hey Vishnu, right? Mahashakti Shiva Sai Shankara Purna Teja Sai Avatara Purna Teja Sai Avatara. There's so many songs. Like other beautiful song I still remember is, today happened to be Dasara So I'm thinking of the Devi songs, right? Another beautiful song is Devi Bhavani Jagat Janani Mandahasini Anandadayini. You have that Swami, beautiful smile, right? Mandahasini. And he's smiling and enjoying. He didn't care whether we were singing in Shruti. He didn't care too much, how the voice is coming out. He didn't care if anybody was following our songs, right? But Mandahasini, Mandahasini. Anandadayini. So,
Mangal.
yeah, I mean, I can go on with the song, but I just wanted to give
Okay.
you flavors, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
Om Namah Shivaya, Namo Narayana. 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 I have Lord Narayana right there, right? But I mean, this is something, it's an ideal situation, right? You realize that you have Vishnu right there in front of you and you are enjoying to your heart content. I wish I was like this those days. But look at our situation, right? The
Did
reality.
you start? Did
We
anybody
are,
come to play the dholak or tabla or something like that, or how it went?
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up, right? So this is a situation. We had to prepare for 10 songs, 5 songs for Mohan Rao Garu, 5 songs for me, right? Forget about singing 2 songs. I never sang 2 songs, right? In Monday before that. Now I have to prepare every day for 5 songs each. And there was no tabla, no dolak. Luckily, the students would leave tabla there in that corner, you know. So we started the first day, and our strategy. Remember, we are very strategic thinkers. We think we are very intelligent people, so we can anticipate Swami's moves and we can plan accordingly. So our intellect is functioning. Mohan Rao Gaur, of course, being a saint, is very cool, calm, composed, and he said, don't worry, everything is going to be okay. I told him, see, I want you to sing the last set of bhajans, so that when Swami comes, you are singing mostly, and somehow I will manage with 1 or 2 songs, right? That was our strategy. And the other strategy was, hey, Swami knows only gents are going to sing from this morning onwards, and he also knows that it's only just you and me. He's not going to waste time coming into the bhajan. He may come just for the last bhajan, right? That was our strategic thinking. So we go with the harmonium, and Mohan Rao Garu is putting the Shruti. That's all we know. We didn't even know how to play, right? So we start. We start. And then lo and behold, Swami comes. And the 3 Oms are there. He's sitting right in front of us, right? In that throne, beautiful throne. We can see his feet. He comes, and I am speechless. All our strategy gone to the wind. Right? We have no choice but just keep singing one after the other, right? And then Swami was having great time. I don't know if I was listening to us. Maybe he decided to move off into different space.
The strategy of his coming was that only to distract people from your singing to him.
Possibly. Mohan Rao Garu, of course, yeah, he is so well experienced. He was doing great job. I am managing, right? And halfway through this, suddenly Swami is seeing that nobody's playing any percussion. He's looking at me, he's looking at the tabla that was kept in the corner, which I couldn't even reach. And then halfway through that, I get the idea, okay, we have to do something, some noise you have to make as a thala, right? So, and then when we think that Swami is not looking at us, I tell that guy, pass on that tabla, right? So I get the tabla, and I used to play tabla as a Balavika student. Not tabla means not real tabla. It's like you just drum something. So I started like that, and Swami didn't say anything. I thought Swami gets upset, he'll say, then I'll push it back, right? That was,
Right.
Swami didn't say anything. So, but I was finding it so difficult to sing and play tabla. But then that's how my playing and singing tabla started. From that
So
day.
from a non-singer, he made you a singer. Then he made you a singer who can play and sing.
Very fascinating. So that day he stayed for all 10 bhajans, right? So every morning session, somehow we managed. Yeah. Now I've become more and more confident, play tabla and sing, right? But I also want to share my mindset at that time. I think it's very important to understand, missed opportunities as human beings, so to say. Now, while this is all going on, anybody in this world would give up anything in this world to be in that situation, to be right in front of Swami, singing for him, looking at his lotus feet. But why thinking was, Swami, what have you done to me? You're making me sing. I don't know where to stay. I don't have money to buy food, right? For my lunch, dinner, we couldn't afford, right? And the previously, Swami used to send word through Chiranjeevi Garu, and part of during the bhajan process, after a few days of our singing, he sends word through Chiranjeevi Garu saying that I know these kids are staying stealthily in the old hostel. A couple of our friends who were working in Sanat and Sarde at that time, they were very kind and said, you can just keep your small bag in our room. Nobody will know. And if anybody asks, we'll say we don't know, right? That, we are not supposed to keep their bag. We were helping them. And Swami comes to know all that, and he sends words to Chiranjeevi Garu, tell them they cannot stay there. They need to take the bus that day. Swami doesn't want to see them next day morning. But remember what Swami told me. I have to sing bhajans, right? Nobody. And we didn't have a place to stay. So what we used to do was, as soon as evening, boys would come, use the restrooms in the old hostel. Bhajan is over. Then we'd bring our bag that was hidden behind the bushes to the stairs and leave the bag there on the staircase. And before anybody would get up in the morning, we would finish off all our, morning rituals, take out the bag and hide it in the bush. So we would only keep there and then sleep in the morning. Nobody would question that because it's night time after bhajan is over. There were only sevadal people cleaning the sand area, right? So we were in that situation, and
How many months? How many months?
yeah, so we start. It's a year. But till next year,
So
Swami didn't do
interestingly,
anything.
most of the year you had nothing to stay, nowhere to stay. So you literally stayed on the staircase, if I may put it like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you had almost nothing to eat also.
Yeah. So whenever somebody, my sister by then became a lecturer in Anantapur campus, and she would send me money whenever she could, right? But basically, yeah. So we were called as staircase boys. All the so-called became
Staircase
staircase
boy.
boys. Yeah. So all these thoughts were going on when I'm in front of.
And you continued singing in Mandir.
Continue to sing in mandir. Continue to. I don't want to use the word curse, but I was angry with Swami. Honestly speaking, I was singing, but I'm also telling him, Swami, what have you done to me? I'm a gold medalist. I should be doing PhD. What am I doing here? Right? Those are the thought process. If I look back, it's so silly, so stupid. Right? God is there to take care of you, and He wants you to be in the moment and enjoy the greatest gift He has ever given to
Well,
anyone.
it's fantastic. Eh? One hand, he's sending Chiranjeevi Garu to ask you to leave, all of you. And then on his side, he tells you, come and sing in the Mandir. So it is like he wants to keep you, but at the same time, he wants to keep some pressure on you. So it's a very beautiful journey. Yeah?
It's
We can laugh
fascinating.
today.
Yeah, there is no right or wrong if I look back, right? But he pushes us in the right direction, right? So it went on for a few months, and then suddenly one day, morning, Swami comes. He says, "Hey, I'm leaving to Whitefield. For next 2 to 3 months, I won't be back. But bhajan responsibility is yours. Make sure that bhajan goes smoothly." Okay, no matter whether anybody comes or not, you have to make sure that bhajan goes smoothly. He tells me in the morning, and then I tell, of course, Swami, yeah, sure, absolutely. And I give me namaskar, I take it. In the evening, Chiranjeev Rao comes looking for us, the 5 staircase boys, and tell them, he takes that bag. I know you guys are keeping this bag behind the bushes. He takes the bag and throws it away. Swami told me, throw it and ask you not to be seen from tomorrow, even in the mandir. I'm banning you from mandir. You cannot enter Shantali. And we were wondering, what is going on, right? And Swami is stressing us. Already we are stressed out what's going to happen to our life, right? And then on top of it, morning Swami tells me, you have to sing. Bhajan is your responsibility. Morning bhajans are your responsibility. So anyway, he's the one who just lifts you up, motivates you, and pushes you in the right direction, right? So next day morning, we have no choice but to come for, there was no darshan, Swami was not there. So we come 5 minutes, 8 o'clock we meet as always agreed with Rao to practice bhajans. And then, 8:45 we go to the bhajan hall. We start singing, we finish the bhajans. So till Swami comes back from Whitefield, we continue to the same route. Chiranjeev Rao garu ignores after that for some reason. Even though he said, Swami told us to make sure that you are not in Prashantralayam, right? So we continue that journey, and then November comes, and Swami gives me gold medal on the stage. He was very happy to see me getting the gold medal, but he's not. I'm thinking about my staircase, and he's thinking about something big for me, right? But he doesn't share that what that big thing is for me, right? I'm thinking lowly about my staircase. Giving me gold medal, and when he was giving me gold medal, I'm so miffed with Swami, still miffed with Swami, right? And he told me, I'm a gold medalist, I should be doing PhD, what am I doing, right? And so I'm not standing very close to Swami, I'm actually a little far away. There are other pictures, right? And then he pulls me near, he pulls me closely, he wants to make sure that I have the best picture possible. He pulls me closely, and my shoulder is touching his shoulder. Then he says, take the photos, right? So that's how the whole process goes on. And the next year comes, and we were thinking April, May, June, and again there's no sign of Swami doing anything. We continue to sing in morning bhajans, right? And we are getting desperate. I wouldn't say about my friends, but I would say I was getting desperate, don't know what to do. And then, of course, Swami, May or sometime that year, he calls all of us inside and says, go and join for PhD. I already told registrar, go and join for PhD from tomorrow. And I was so overjoyed. I wouldn't feel a second that I'll be missing singing bhajans for Swami in the morning. Not a second I felt. I'm overjoyed to go and do PhD. I mean, that's the kind of mindset, I was going through. So the next day comes, we disappear. We go off to campus, we go to the hostel the previous day evening, because I was so eager, right? I can talk about myself. I was so eager. And the next day morning, we are not there. And Swami sends word to, of course, the other part is Swami sends word the previous evening to registrar saying that, hey, you're all registered to do PhD, start your program, go to the hostel. Swami said that you should go to the hostel and stay. So next day morning, we go to college instead of coming to Mandir. But luckily by then, there were other old students, next batch of old students. The singers were there. So luckily, the bhajans didn't stop. But even we were sitting there, Swami comes very angrily. 5 of us were a little bit scattered here and there. But he comes to me, bad leader, bad leader. You're such a bad leader. Where were you? As soon as Swami says, go and do PhD, you run away. You forget about what Swami told you, that you have to do bhajans, morning bhajans. You just run away. Very bad, very bad. He says and then goes away. He was so angry. For the last 1 year, I've never seen him being angry, even though I was in such a dire situation. Right? He would call us upstairs for, create some work or the other. He would spend time with us. He would talk to us, right? All that for the last 1 year, he was so kind and beautiful, right? And then he gets very upset for joining PhD program. When you look back, you have an explanation as to, Swami is constantly teaching us what is important in life, right? While, excelling in career, all these things are important, even more important for Swami. The reason why he came was is our inward journey, our spiritual journey. He's trying to make that, part of our learning process, right? So anyway, so next day again, morning we come. We don't go to college. We come. We pray for his forgiveness, and he was very kind, and he's back to normal and say, "It's okay. I understand. Go focus on your studies." And that's how my PhD program, started.
Beautiful,
Very
beautiful.
interesting aspect to that program too. Remember, I was a staircase boy for 1 year, and in my analysis, I have lost 1 year of PhD research time period. But the way without going into all the details, the way the research program worked was, I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to start the research program at a much higher level than what was originally proposed by my guide. Because I am by nature, I'm always looking for out of the box solutions. If I had followed the path that my boss was recommending, I would have had to work 1 year to prepare a starting material for my research. But I looked into the literature and said there is a difficult pathway which is not possible to do it in the lab at Parthi. But if I can get access to somebody in IASC, I could get access to that material and I would save a year's time, right? I'm also, basically, I'm not, too hardworking person. Let me put it that way. Maybe you could also call me a lazy guy, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to find ways to get connected to somebody in IASC and get that material. So just to close this whole story, Swami not only saved that extra 1 year, I finished my PhD in 3 years. Typically, it would have taken in my field 4 to 5 years. Swami, I got amazing results. I was the first one to actually publish in an international journal. Made me finish my PhD by 91, right? In the hindsight, again, he's guiding no matter what your thinking process is. He's providing you scaffolding in your journey. I think that's a constant, thread that you would see in the journey of our life, all our lives.
Swami has this beautiful way of helping, but it does not make you does not give credit to himself. He avoids that part, and he beautifully frames it. So I guess you finished your PhD, and then your journey for your postdoctoral. I think that was. I think your Shruti box is up, so it's coming and disturbing the noise. Yeah.
Oh,
So then you went to your. How did that postdoctoral thing come on?
yeah, so it was
You can mention it quickly, then we can go for yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So, as a part of our PhD program, we were also teaching as research scholars. So, by the time I finished my thesis, I was wondering what's next, right? Remember, my goal since 1977 was to be part of Swami's mission, to live in Parthi, to
Teach.
to do what he wants me to do, right? I was considering that as the greatest gift of my life if that happened. This is how the human mind works, and this is how Swami works. I think that's how I want to put it. So by 91, I realized that it's great, if I have an opportunity to be a faculty in Swami's institution, and I realized that I am not a student with whom Swami would speak every day, right? And I was not even sure if there was an opening for me to be hired as a faculty. So I started to think that there are no opportunities for me. I have to do something else. I didn't think that I should go to Swami and ask him what should I do, right? I assumed these were all assumptions, but Swami was nice. Swami has his own plans. And when I realized that I'm not going to be joining as a faculty, I won't get an opportunity. He sends word through the registrar, Mr. Chakravarti at that time. He said, Swami wants you to teach. And that's how I joined And it's such an unexpected thing for me, because by then I also realized that, in I want to feel Swami within me, right? Maybe because I've not been getting too much attention physically from Swami, and maybe I was also kind of missing that. Uh, Maybe that's how he was driving me. I was thinking, I want to feel, I want to have those feelings of being with the divinity, constantly, not hanker for the physical attention. So I didn't want to be unhappy by craving for physical attention and not getting it. So those were the thoughts that were coming in my mind. And before I knew that Swami wanted me to teach, slowly I think my mindset changed. I wanted to move out to do, the next things in my career. But Swami sends me through registrar, and then I join as a faculty there. I start teaching. So the next semester starts sometime in June. I'm teaching. I defend my thesis, and I get my PhD degree by November. And I'm continuing to teach till the end of that year, in March, April, right? By early next year, I formed up my thinking process, and I said, Swami, I want to go and pursue higher aspirations in my career. Of course, I didn't want to share this with my parents. I knew they would be totally devastated, because the only dream that they had was having got so much from Swami. And they said, you have to be grateful and give tenfold to what you have got by being in Prashant Nilayam, by being part of Swami's mission, right? So I didn't even want to discuss with them. There was an opportunity to go to Max Planck Institute in Munich to do postdoctoral research. I just took that. I accepted that. Went to my uncle's place in Chennai. Got my German visa. I don't tell about this to anybody in my family. I don't
Oh God.
anybody, including my friends. Okay. So by that summer course, all of us were expected to go to summer course. I was there for the first day of the summer course, and I'm waiting to tell Swami. So I was sitting in Trai Brindavan outside. I remember distinctly. It was not inside the Trai Brindavan, it was outside. Swami came, he was going line after line. I was not sure if he would come in front of me, but he came. So I just spring forth, right? It's not that I've thought about as a strategy that I have to tell him, how to tell him, nothing. I was not even scared. I just got up and said, Swami, I am leaving. That's all. I blurted out. And when I look back, yeah, I think it is Swami who made me say that, right? And why did he make me say that? It's very interesting, because my parents would have never taken that blow, that I am leaving Bhakti, I'm leaving physical presence of Swami, going on my own into this world, not just going into this world to a different town in Andhra or a different state, but I'm going overseas. That is something they could have never imagined. It would have been a biggest blow of their life. And I think Swami wanted to protect them, right? So he made me do that. So I got up and told him, and Swami looked at me. He was neither happy nor sad. He looked busy. He said, Manchidi, and gave me namaskar. I took namaskar. That's it. That was my last darshan, living for 12 years with Swami. So I go off to Germany to do my postdoctoral research. Now, remember, it's hard. It's hard to be in the world after spending 12 years in Prashant Nilayam. All kinds of things keep swirling in your mind, right? You're going through, on one side, you're thinking, Swami is God, Swami is going to protect me. On the other, you're thinking, oh my God, what a drohi I am. Swami used to say this, you people, take so much from Swami and you don't give anything back, right? I remember the angry Swami that would say those things to all of us. And that's another strong, thinking process that's going on. Oh my God, Swami is going to be so angry with me because he's not finding me joining back for the next academic year. So with all that, yeah, I'm all alone in Germany, in Munich. I don't know the language that much, except for the place in the institute where I'm, pursuing my research. And I know pretty sure, Swami is going to punish me for what I've done. It is there somehow at the back of my mind. You don't realize the divinity, because of all this thinking process. So in Germany at that time, as soon as you arrive in Germany, within 3 months, you have to get a medical examination done, and the medical board needs to approve, saying that you are free from any communicable diseases, right? So I go get my blood test done, and I know everything is going to be fine because I'm fine, healthy, right? But then next day when I go to pick up my certificate, that certificate which I needed to give it to the visa office to extend my visa, they said you failed. So I cannot give you certificate. You cannot stay in this country. But let's do one thing. We will take the blood again and retest one last time. So I was devastated. The thought that occurred to me, yeah, finally Swami is taking revenge on me. This is what is happening. What am I going to do? Literally, right? I have Swami's photo in my room in Germany. I would, do my prayers both evening and morning. All that is happening. I would go to Sai Center in Munich, beautiful Sai Center. That's a nice experience. I think we can talk some other time. Beautiful bhajans. There were 60, 70 people meeting every Thursday evening, right? Everything is going on. But this thought comes constantly because of guilty feeling, right? You feel guilty, so much guilt. And then I realized, okay, this is my life is destroyed now. What am I going to tell my parents? What will happen to my career? 3 months you do postdoc and then go back to India. Where can I get a job, right? And then with that, I come back. I'm really sad. I'm crying. I'm crying every day. But I go to do my work. My advisors and my co-workers were sad that I'm leaving. They come to know that I don't get the visa extension. Then after a week, I booked my tickets to go fly back to India. Everything is done. I pack up. I tell my landlady that, yeah, I'm quitting. All set. Morning, I go to collect my, just to get that confirmed. But on that morning is the first time I realized I'm not crying anymore. Right? The night when I slept, I realized it's okay. Whatever has to happen will happen. I became suddenly calm that day night when I slept. For the first time in that week, I was able to sleep. I was at peace with myself. And in the morning, I remember clearly, it was around 4 o'clock, I get a dream. Swami comes into my dream, and he was so happy, right? He was very happy. He comes, lifts his robe, shows his feet, and say, "Nenunte nuvenduku bhayapadtavu? When I am there, why you want to fear? Why do you worry? Take namaskar. Everything is going to be okay." And with that, of course, yeah, I knew, okay, something will happen. Even if I have to go back to India, it's okay. That's his, divine will. I became calmer, very calm, right? But again, at the back of my mind, all those worries constant is there, right? I didn't tell this to my parents. What I told them is, there was some problem with my visa. I have to come back. I didn't say that I'm carrying some communicable disease or something like that, right? I didn't say anything. So all prepared. The flight is to be there, the next day morning. So that day morning, I go to this place. They gave me a letter saying, "Hey, everything is fine. I'm so sorry, we made a mistake. Everything is fine. Here it is. Go get your visa extension done." Right? So that's when, it really struck me. I mean, I would go in the weekends, take the train, go to beautiful lakes around. I would sit there in front of those lakes. And all that I would think is, oh my God, we are in divine hands. Why do we even, allow ourselves to get perturbed? Right? I remember I wrote a beautiful article.
It's a beautiful thought that how God, how we interpret God and how God is different. And how much time your parents took to reconcile, or did they?
Yeah. So remember, so they were more devastated when they came to know that I was leaving the country and going to Germany, right? I don't think they ever recovered with the thought that I'm no longer with Swami. If Swami has not given me anything, maybe they would have been okay to some extent. Even then, that would be very hard for them to digest. They would have wanted me to just be in Prashantilam, do Seva, right? enrich my life. That's what they would have wanted me to. But, you know, if that has happened, if Swami had not given me, I think maybe somehow they would have, reconciled with them. But Swami offered me a position as a faculty there. It's the greatest gift of, the miracle that I wanted in my life from my childhood.
Certainly, it will be tough as a human parent. It's very tough to
Yeah.
reconcile,
And then
especially
I'm
with such a
throwing it. You
devotion.
feel that you're throwing everything into the dust, right? God's gift, and then going. And that's a feeling never left my parents till recently, pretty recently, right? Only when they came to Boston a couple of years back, when they saw and interacted with the Sai devotees in Boston, I think that's when they realized, oh my God, he is in Swami's hands, right? So they have become common. So to answer your question, right? Yeah.
So, how did you now give me a Swami's perspective when you met him at the end? I think you had a very beautiful interaction with him. I think that would be a nice to know. How did you feel and how did he respond to you? Your
Yes,
last interaction with Bhagawan.
absolutely. Yeah. So that I would still say is the best interaction, even though I was seeing Swami every day for 12 years. Last interaction with Swami in physical form was the best interaction for a number of reasons. Remember, again, I want to reinforce this concept of why are we his students? Why are we his devotees? Why is he taking us into his fold? What is his main purpose? His main purpose is not to give us riches. His main purpose is not to, make us famous. His main purpose is not to solve all our problems, right? While he is going to solve problem that would help us in our journey, while he would give us everything that we want, we desire, but again, his main purpose is to lift us up, to tell us that the divinity is within us, right? Divyatma Swarupulara. This is what I always think now. We listen to thousands and thousands of speeches of Swami. From first speech to the last speech, one thing that is common for every Swami speech is Divyatma Swarupulara. He said, he wanted us, that's all his purpose was. He wanted us to lift ourselves to become divine, right? We are imbibed with that divinity. And it took me some time, not that it's like eating sugar, right? And thinking that sugar is sweet. So I know this is what Swami wants, but I've not experienced, right? So I'm still in that journey. But what is obvious to me through my journey from that moment when, Swami came in my dream, to the last opportunity. So till then, I was coming to Parthi, and I was blessed because my parents were living in Parthi. So I would spend time with my parents, have Swami's darshan, enjoy beautiful bhajans in Mandir, and then I go back. I would not go anywhere else in India, right? So both purposes, Swami made sure that I served. But one thought that always used to bother me was, especially after moving to US in 2000, after interacting with the top-notch researchers, collaborating with them, publishing papers, there used to be a nagging feeling in me that, oh, I wish I got my PhD from MIT or Harvard or Stanford. I would have got a better recognition, right? Totally forgetting that Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning doesn't even rank among the universities in this world, right? Nobody knows about it. But Swami gave me opportunities to interact with researchers, with the best of the researchers in this world, with the degrees from Harvard, MIT, any institution that you could imagine in the world, whether it's in Germany. I collaborated with them. And he showed me, right? He showed me that Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning is no less. Whether officially it is recognized as a part of the university rankings or not, he demonstrated. And it took a lot of time for me to realize. And the last time actually was when I think it was an aha moment for me. It was the year 2011. Till then, it was on and off interaction with Swami. I would have namaskar, pad namaskar. He would see me, but no talking, right? So 2011 December, no, 2010 December, I had no plans to attend Prem Bandhan.
That's our annual meet. Yeah, alumni meet, January 1st.
Right. So prior to that, I had come probably a couple of times, alumni meet, but not regularly. I would be a backbencher, so to say, have darshan and go. But on 2010, I had no plans to come. I mean, it was, I think I still remember, it was first week of November, and I didn't even think about it, right? And suddenly, I land up in Perth. There was an opportunity. I land up in Perth on December 30th, right? One day before the New Year's Eve. And my thinking process is, yeah, I'll have Swami's darshan. I look, see my parents, my job accomplished, right? I don't know why Swami brought me there, right? I had no plans. So that day, evening darshan is over. I'm walking out, and I'm looking for my friends. You want to see familiar faces. You spent 12 years in Perth. You want to talk to people whom you know, right? But I couldn't find anyone. Everyone looked new to me. There were a lot of students. They said they're all old students, but I couldn't even recognize them. There was no hair like me, right? There were no teeth for some of them. Some of them became grandparents, but they were all old students, right? But I couldn't find anyone. So I was walking out and I see someone tapping on my shoulder. And this was one of the new Vedam boys. And apparently he recognized me. And he said, "Sir, tomorrow, why don't you join for Vedam?" And again, that was not part of my plan at all. And I said, oh my God, okay. Yes, sure, I said. So next day I get dressed up. Swami, gave all of us the Vedam dress and everything. So I had that. I wore that. I was there in front of the Swami's mandir, standing there with about 15 Vedam boys by 6:37. And at that time, we had no idea if Swami would come that day, when he would come, right? But we were all prepared. So we waited almost for 2 to 3 hours, I guess, at the time. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm again a backbencher there, one of the 15 boys. At least I get to chant the Vedam. Hopefully, I remember quite a bit of it. So those were the thoughts that were going in my mind. And I was also thinking, yeah, Swami would look at me probably. Why would he remember me? After so many batches, he won't even know me, right? So those were the thoughts that were going. And suddenly I see a lot of commotion happening. And then we knew Swami would be coming any moment. And this boy who asked me to join the Vedam group the previous night, he comes running to me with a plate, with a silver plate. It's full of all the things that are necessary for puja. It has flowers, it has akshita, it has kunkuma, it has haldi, right? It has a lamp that is lit in ghee, everything. And then he comes to me and just hands out the plate and says, "Sir, I want you to go and welcome Swami." And I was stunned, and the thought process that was going on, at that time in me was, oh my God, how am I going to face Swami? After I really left Parthi, I never saw Swami that close, right? My thinking process was, hey, Swami may not even recognize me. He could be very angry with me. Again, I keep using this word angry. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but the things keep swirling in your mind. Guilt feeling keeps right. So Swami may say, "Dunna pota, go," or whatever it is, and I was scared. But I didn't have the heart to say no, right? And Swami didn't want me to say no. Let me put it that way. So I just go, and then I am like a cement block. I'm just there. Doors open. Swami comes out in the wheelchair, literally like a cement block. But this is a cement block that is shaking like leaf, right? And I don't know what to do. Swami comes close to me and he's looking at me. Two things are, it's my words cannot explain, but this is the closest to the explanation, right? I see him smiling. I've never ever saw Swami smiling so beautifully, so lovingly, right? With full of compassion. That compassion, it's like sometimes to an extent, maybe a 0.1% what you would see in your own parents. They're happy to see you, right, when you come from, after a year or so. But this is million times that. And he knew who I was, right? That was even more. You can make out from the face that he knew, and he was very happy to see me. And the second aspect is Swami's face was golden. It was brilliant sun. My eyes were, I couldn't take it. It was so bright, right? And he's looking at me, and I'm closing my eyes. I don't know what to do. And he says, "Come near, kneel down." He's giving me now instructions. I'm like a robotic person, right? Kneel down, give me the plate, and bring it closer so that I can take the akshita. And he takes the akshita, and then he puts it on me. He blesses, he gives me a rose flower. He says, "Take namaskar." It's all robotic actions, right? But what is in my mind was, "Oh my God, Swami, you know who I am. You never forgotten me." Right? So I just want to understand the dichotomy of the two situations, right? On one side, I've been far away physically from him, right? Thinking all kinds of things that he won't remember me, right? He has, I never thought he has forsaken me. He has been there protecting me, right? But physically, you would think that, right? And then on the other side, oh my God, he is with me all along, right? I am part of this divinity, right? He is making me do things. That was a robotic me, honestly. My mind stopped working. He made me do everything step by step. The very important aspect to me, if you ask me what is the lesson that I've learned in my life throughout, right, comes from this experience. That all of us, remember the context too, right? That was the last physical darshan, 2011 January. I never imagined that I would never see physically Swami. And he gave me such a beautiful way to showcase that he loves me, he remembers me, and he's there to take care of me, right? So that's the context. I'm not going to see him physically. But this is what Swami has prepared all of us from day one, from 1926 onwards, right? This is what he's prepared for. He says, "I am with you," right? Constantly with you. You don't need to go to any other Baba, right? Just because this Baba doesn't talk to you, you don't need to go to a Baba that talks to you or claims that he's Baba. You don't need to go to any other place other than Prashantilam, because Prashantilam is our home, right? How foolish it is. He has tried to teach us for over several decades, and now today, because somebody else speaks to us, we just leave and go and think that that is Swami, right? What happened to all of us that we have learned these lessons, and in a jiffy, the moment we don't see Swami's physical form, we want to go somewhere else and listen to somebody, right? That is the greatest lesson, I think, to me, that Swami taught through this experience. And the second aspect to this whole thing is, don't limit yourself. You can do whatever you want. Set your mind to, right? Lift yourself up. You are divine. You can have success in this world. You can have success spiritually. You can have success materially. Don't limit yourself. Swami has been teaching us for several decades. Swami taught me for the 12 years physically I was there. But it took me this incident to really reinforce that.
As Swami would say, upsu, jumpsu, upsu, jumpsu. I don't know when will our time come and this ups and jumps will stop and we can remain constantly, that faith can remain the constant pillar. I don't know, I enjoyed, the time is also telling me that it is, we should close the chapter, and it was wonderful hearing you, but I would like to close it with a bhajan from you. I think let's all, it's a good occasion, auspicious time. So, brother, you have been very kind to share your whole journey and your perspective on Bhagawan and everything. So, I think it will be a befitting closure if you can sing at least whatever you feel like.
Thank you, Abhi. I'm only remembering the Purna Chandra Hall, Swami's coming, right? Giving us water, throwing water on all of us, right? We were all so blessed, right? And I remember this. This is one of my favorite songs. Bhairavi Ambe Bhavani Amba Bhairavi Ambe Bhavani Jagadambe Ma Jagajanani Bhairavi Ambe Bhavani Narayani Patita Pavani Narayani Patita Pavani Patipuranjani Sai Janani Patipuranjani Sai Janani Bhairavi Ambe Bhavani Amba Bhairavi Ambe Sai Ram.
Hi Ram, brother. So nice. Thank you so much. And I wish everybody a very holy and auspicious Navaratri. Today is Ashtami, and may Bhagwan's blessing be on all of us. And thank you, Brother Shivsai, for this wonderful evening and making our a journey of Sai very beautiful and interesting. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sai Ram, and happy Navaratri to everyone.
Sai Ram to everybody.